There are two things that I want to discuss in this video because while we're only just starting with season 2 of Oshi no Ko, there are valuable lessons for the Christian to take away. Now, I am aware of what happens later in this anime, as some of you have already pointed out in the comments of previous videos, but I am still interested in how this story is going to play out. I'm not going to justify the relationship dynamic that occurs later on. The reason why I'm being vague about it is because I don't want to spoil it for those of you who don't know, but of course, the type of relationship that happens in the manga is definitely sinful, right? It's not good. However, just for full transparency, I think my future treatment of this anime is going to surround the sorts of lessons that we as Christians can take from a broken world, one which Oshi no Ko is so deeply well acquainted with. In the brokenness that the world finds itself in, how does Jesus respond to all of this, and how should we as Christians respond to this brokenness? That's the foundation of my future discussion of this anime and discussion of this anime in this video, of course. So don't take this as a glowing endorsement of everything that happens later on, because as with all things media, don't passively consume, be a vigilant and critical thinker as you watch. Which brings me to the first point, which is regarding revenge, which some of you have may already seen me discuss this in my previous videos evaluating Oshi no Ko, but I think my point is further reinforced in this season. We see how, because Aqua absolutely does not let go of his mother, that there's so much hatred for his mother's murderer that he's not moving on from the tragedy of his past. Literally in the first episode, he flat out says that him working at this production isn't to advance his acting career or to network with all of these new people, but the sole purpose of him agreeing to the show is simply to get some form of working relationship with this guy who knew I in her early years as an actor. Just from a point of practicality, why is it Aqua's sole purpose in life to simply get revenge against the person who killed his mother? Just removing the religious aspect of it, purely from a pragmatic point of view, this is definitely no way to live your childhood. There's a beauty to childhood that one doesn't have to worry about stuff in the real world, that when you're growing up as a teenager, you are finding yourself, you are developing your identity, and for Aqua to have his whole identity surround this notion of finding out who killed I, what happens when this goal is finished? If hatred is the only thing that has populated his heart, how can he have room for love of anything in the end? It just goes to show the truth in the words that vengeance is mine, I will repay, thus saith the Lord. One doesn't have to believe in Christ to recognize that revenge is utterly harmful. I actually even made that same mistake in my first video that I did on this anime. However, our faith dictates that Christ actually desires love. My second point is less to do with the story of Oshi no Ko itself, but more a reflection of our society, because I'm going to talk about what is called commodification. A simple definition would be the process of treating something as a mere commodity, which Aqua definitely engages fully and wholly in treating his acting career as simply a commodity. He's not treating and using his artistic talent with the passion and the humanity of it all. He's using this creative endeavor and he's using it as this thing to use, right? For the Christian, we are gifted with talents and skills by God because we are meant to use those skills and talents to advance his kingdom, to bless other people, and it's the use of our skill as a commodity which is a tertiary concern. That's the difference between what a conventional Christian may say and how Aqua is basically living his life, which is he lacks the passion, the drive, and the humanity to think of using his skills to be more altruistic. Maybe instead of worrying about his sister so much, he could actually use his skills to help and support his sister, to use his skills to advance a career which will grant him funds for which he can use to bless other people. These are the sorts of things that Jesus wants for us in our lives, not to purely serve ourselves with the talents we have. Of course, there are atheists who are altruistic and moral and aren't selfish. I am not denying the capacity of the atheist to do each of those things. I'm simply stating, for the Christian, you absolutely have an obligation to be altruistic because Christ loved you first. God has given you all of these things, the whole universe and the world you are existing in, the environment you are living in, the time that you have been given. These are things which God has gifted you. So not to be legalistic, but if you do have a love for God, then you will have more of a reason than the atheist to use your gifts and talents and skills not only to bless yourself, but so too to bless God, then bless other people. So coming back to my point on commodification, we see how Aqua doesn't actually like Akane, and Akane has also colluded in pretending to date Aqua. We see how this basic human function of romance has been commodified for the purpose of boosting these two actors' social status and likelihood to star in movies with each other. They aren't actually in love with each other. The process of romance itself has been commodified. I think it is a criticism of capitalism that one can take, that without Christ, capitalism has no leash and runs wild in its absolute pursuit to commodify every aspect of the world, from the natural environment to human functions to the very concept of experiences themselves. Oshi no Ko gives us an insight into how the creative process too has been commodified for the purpose to sell it as a consumable. I certainly don't have all the answers on how we can fix this, but I think that is an indication that we need more of Christ again, especially in the field of entertainment. The mere act of creation and creativity as a concept does involve us as humans in reflecting ourselves as image bearers of God. In the Genesis story, the first thing God does is to create, so there is an aspect in which creation is a very sacred and holy thing, so much so that it would be unfortunate if the act of creating is so embedded in our culture as having been commodified. So those are my two trains of thought for you in regard to these first 3 episodes of Oshi no Ko Season 2. I hope it's given you something further to think about as you watch this anime, and that it reminds you for your need of Christ. If you are looking for more Christian anime that may be more wholesome than Oshi no Ko, I'd recommend for you to watch my video on Violet Evergarden.